What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Real quick, I had a thought in my head about what we consider white supremacy, right? And I just want to lay this out so maybe we can all understand what exactly, white supremacy is, as far as it's, an organization, right? So first we want to start off with the British imperial powers, right? Back in the, the 1500s or whatever, right? White supremacy is a European, the British Empire, right? The Germanic empires and the Francophone empires, right? Their expansion across the world, right, was the beginning of white supremacy, right? Basically, white people saying that we manifest destiny, utilizing Christianity, we are superior, therefore we're the default, we're the standard, and everything anybody else needs to prostrate to us and needs to do and operate the way we want, so that we can be comfortable and so we can prosper as European people, right? Then America was created, which is the UK 2.0, because before America, it was Spain, the UK, France, Germany, Prussia, Poland, and all these other countries fighting for dominance in the European subcontinent. Or, they like to even, white supremacy is so rampant that they even consider the peninsula of which they live on, Eurasia, as a continent, even though it doesn't even meet the definition of a continent. That's white supremacy. The map distortion of the size of Europe, America, and Greenland, where Europeans live, is portion of white supremacy. That's part of the foundation to make sure that when you see the map, you see the prominence of the European areas. But back to America. America is a manifestation of the United Kingdom. If the UK and Germany had a baby, right, it would be America. If you listen to the American national anthem and you listen to the British national anthem, it is the same national anthem. Let me say that again. You listen to the British national anthem, then you listen to the American national anthem. It is the same national anthem, right? It would, if that was a music genre, America, the UK would hit America up for a copyright infringement somehow, all right? Now, the UK was supposed to be the center of white supremacy. But what happened was, when they allowed America, its baby, to grow, right? America fought the UK for the keys to white supremacy, right? Then America became the institution of white supremacy, right? Backed and funded by white supremacy capitalistic policies of the transatlantic slave trade, right? Now, before the transatlantic slave trade in the United Kingdom, the people actually, like the regular people who were enslaved via, like the regular British people were basically slaves themselves. They were basically serfs. They were basically slaves. They were treated pretty much just as bad, under the landlord system or whatever, right? And so the harsh treatment that Africans got, was practiced by the Europeans, who not only treated their own people like shit, their peasants like shit, but they treated their war captives like shit, because they were perpetually at war with each other, because they create states and then they fight over the states that they create, right? That's why Europe always changing, right? They always got, if you look at Europe, you see all the countries that you see now, and their borders was different 100 years ago, and you go back another 100 years, it was different. It's just like that. So America and its foreign policy is an extension of the British imperial policy of taking over the world. If you look at all the areas that America now has military bases, it's basically the British form of world colonization, but in a different form, right? Via military bases, and then capitalistic systems that go with it, right? And then what America did was it brainwashed its own population while also enslaving them with a form of enslavement that doesn't require physical beating. And that actually just ended a few decades ago, because even after slavery was ended, employment in America was damn near akin to slavery, all the way up and probably until like the 50s and 60s or something like that, when people started to get rights. Child labor was normal, child deaths, beatings, and killings. It was very bad, right? Capitalism started out very bad. It's bad now on our pockets, but it used to be bad on our physical being and our pockets, right? So then America created created in collaboration with its European powers, it created the International Monetary Fund, right? Where the world banking and finances goes through European nations, right? Because Europeans, they'll go somewhere and then tell everybody what's valuable, right? Then they just first they'll collect and say it's not valuable. Then when they take it, then it's valuable. Kind of like when they come into black neighborhoods, they dilapidate it, make it go to shit, and then the Europeans come in and buy it at dirt cheap prices. Then all of a sudden it becomes a first class neighborhood, right? That's the strategy and the tactic. But American foreign policy is the ultimate, most powerful, and stabilized version of white supremacy. Its economic its foreign policy, its policies is white supremacy. When people are upset and they say death to America, what they're really saying is death to white supremacy, because America and the Europeans' foreign policy is to go into places where brown people are and take their stuff, disenfranchise them economically so they can continue to take their stuff, blame them for the lack of economic progress in those countries, and then come behind the puppets that they place and act like saviors, so that the ignorant masses don't realize that the puppet master is the one causing their economic stress, not the puppet that they see in front of them, right? But the good thing is, what's happening now that we have the age of information, no longer is all these moves being made behind closed doors. Everything is transparent. So the tactics that America and the West is utilizing, which is usually the ignorance of the masses to be able to do the things that they do to take advantage of the world, all of a sudden, within a matter of 10 to 20 years, it's evaporating right in front of their eyes, and they don't know what to do about it, right? So as a Pan-African, yes, I was in the military. I've been a part of the machine that I'm talking about, and this is where I learned most of the real world, being involved in it. If you're not in it, you don't really know about it, right? You're just talking about it if you was never in it, right? But when you're in the real world, you see how they move, right? And understand morality and morals. That's not for government. That's not for them. That's for people like the peasants to stay complacent, to stay compliant, to stay pliable, to stay willfully ignorant. They'll give you your Bible. They'll give you your 2 days off so you can decompress from your 5 days of slave labor, right? And they'll give you just enough resources in order to bring your ass back to work and do it again. You're pretty much still a slave. Like when human beings were slaves, the overhead costs for these corporations, keep in mind these were corporations, legal entities that still exist to today. They just had to diversify, right, after the laws changed. Their overhead was to feed the enslaved person, they had to house the enslaved person, and they did give, and they had to, medication, basic limited medical care for the enslaved person so that the enslaved person can work and make that person money. Nowadays, all they did was they took the whip away, the beating, disciplinary action from the lack of work, and then they took the beating part of it, added things like social security card, social security number. They added agencies to track your money, making it so you are no longer enslaved by the chain, but shackled by finances, right? Everything that you own, how we live, we're forced to buy from corporations. We're forced to buy and purchase things from private corporations on an annual basis, or else the federal government, who the corporations own, will punish us for not paying these corporations money. Like your car insurance. We have to pay private corporations car insurance, and they can go up on their rate and they receive profit. But if we do not have that insurance in America, we can be punished by the government for not paying and patronizing these private companies. So white supremacy affects us domestically, and it keeps us in a slave mentality where we all have to we basically work our lives away completely, and then when we're old and useless, then we're allowed to live maybe a small semblance of our own freedom, for ourselves. But we basically are born forced to work just to live, and then we work for corporations who in turn we're forced to live with. So the corporations have become the kings just on the corporate, and it's not government, they're kings, right? And you can't reach a king who's the head of a corporation because there's so many layers of plausible deniability, so many layers of accountability, that usually a king of a corporation doesn't get held accountable for the things that its corporation does, unlike a regular monarchy where the king will be directly held accountable by the people for the things that the kingdom in his court has done, right? So to be a corporate boss is better to be a king, because if you're a corporate boss, your kingdom is bigger, your finances is bigger, your subjects are beholden to you in an authoritarian manner. Is not a democracy. And if anything happens, there's layers within your corporation to alleviate you of any responsibility, right? And they create all the laws to make sure they can do these things. That's why America is a business. And that business is to go around the world utilizing the manifestation of white supremacy to subjugate all other places for the benefit of white people. That's why when people say death to America, they're not talking about death to African Americans. We're not a part of that, right? They're saying death to white Christian evangelical Europeans and white Christian evangelical Americans and white Christian evangelical Australians and South Africans specifically. That's who they're talking about. That's who all the people of the brown nations are targeting. When China targets America, China is targeting white Europeans and their power structure. When Africa is fighting against America, they're fighting against white Europeans and their power structure. When African Americans within the system that we are forced to live in, as Pan-Africans, we're fighting against the white institutions, right? That uses us as their source of revenue in order to dominate and take from the rest of the world, including continue to take from its own citizens, its people. So as a Pan-African, I'm loyal to black people. I'm not loyal to capitalism. Capitalism is form of capitalism, which is I'm not in favor of capitalistic practices. I'm not in favor of white Western Christian this specific capitalistic system that we have here. That's only goal is for legacy companies that's already benefited from hundreds of years of free labor, not just African Americans, but the basic free labor of the Indian people, the free labor of the Chinese, exploitation of all the other European immigrants over time, even though they got to join the club at some point, you know what I'm saying? But originally this white supremacy system is built just to benefit white people. So I don't like America, even though I'm American, I don't condone and I don't support the American system of capitalism, even though I'm forced to utilize that to live because we have no choice. But I am for a modified version of capitalism that has socialist aspects to it, that allows people to be able to thrive and reach for their own goals, their financial goals, but also allows for the everyday person to be able to live a decent life. You know, they should be able to live without being on the hamster wheel of capitalism that turns them into a slave one way or another, right? So we need to understand what white supremacy is. White supremacy is American capitalism. White supremacy is the International Monetary Fund. White supremacy is our political parties and how they operate in tandem with each other, even though they give us political theater in order to compete in their elections. They give us political theater so that we can be upset about things that don't matter, like transgender and gay stuff, while there are real actual issues that affect us financially and socially that we're not even talking about because we're too focused on things that's really inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. You know, that's how they do. Give us something to be pissed off with that has absolutely no real effect on our lives, while they go into the back rooms and they do the things behind our back that truly do affect us, you know, in our lives, you know, for their own financial gain. Because at the end of the day, Corporations are in the business of making money. America is a corporation. America is in the business of making money. So when it comes to that, they don't discriminate. That's why they have no problem starting a whole war that's killing hundreds of thousands of Europeans. They don't have, white supremacy doesn't have loyalty to white people. It's just a term. White supremacy does not have loyalty to white people. White people are affected just like black people when it comes to white supremacy. White supremacy will kill, destroy, disenfranchise, and de-educate, uneducate, and miseducate Europeans just like it does anybody else, right? White supremacy is made for the well-to-do 1% rich people who use classism, racism, xenophobia, tribalism, and nationalism in order to keep the people divided so that they can take advantage of the pliability of the people and the ignorance of the people to actually know or understand what's truly going on in those back rooms, to continue to run the world and be gluttonous and take the things that they want, because there's never enough of these type of people. And they don't have morals. Like I said, morals is all about power. It's about power. Black people need to start seeking power, right? And not just seeking compromise. We need power. If we don't have power, we don't have enough power to force them to compromise, right? And just so you know, if you're a Pan-African, you lean towards liberal, progressive policies. There's nothing wrong with having liberal policies if you know what liberal policies are. Now, you can go too far with liberalism, right? Which some groups do. Just like you can be okay to be conservative on certain aspects, social conservatism, political liberalism, but you can go too far with conservatism, right? There are balances. There's a scale at which the majority of human beings fall, and they fall between a lot of people fall between social conservatism, right, and political liberalism, and there's a balance there that give or take a little bit, 60-40, 40-60, that most human beings on this planet pretty much agree on. But yeah, if you're a Pan-African, your loyalty should be to Africa, to Africans, all African Americans, all Africans everywhere, and then secondary should be your nationality, to a certain extent, but also recognizing that the nationality that you are, right, the countries that you live in, and the policies that the white systems that was created in those countries are not systems that you have to support simply because you're a citizen of that nation. There are plenty of Europeans who do not support the European imperial policies in this country. There are plenty of Europeans that don't agree with this form of capitalism that we have in this country, right? But one thing I don't want you guys to mix up: capitalism and democracy are two different things, and sometimes they get used, they intermingle, and they get mixed with each other. People remember democracy, meaning the people having the ability to choose their leaders. That right there, that's different than capitalism, right? I'm all for democracy. I think democracy is a good form of governance if done right, even though within democracy, people are fallible and corruptible. So of course they corrupt the system, but the system itself is a good system, right? I also don't mind other forms of government systems that can be tried out, as long as at some point the people have the ability to make the change if they don't agree with that system. So there should be a mechanism there for a change to be had if necessary, right? But yeah, understanding what white supremacy is, so that when you hear certain words, understand you're talking about white supremacy. When you're talking about sanctions, when America uses the American dollar to crush foreign economies, that's white supremacy. When America messes with Cuba, Haiti, Venezuela, that's white supremacy. When America says that they can bomb any country they want, but dare not you touch any American territory across the world, that's white supremacy. The fact that Israel can just kill as many people as they want, and that's okay, but in another country, if a conflict happened, all of a sudden there's a hoopla in the Western world, that's white supremacy, because white supremacy values whiteness and Europeanness over everything else. The Palestinians don't have a value as far as these groups of Europeans are concerned, because they're not European, therefore they don't have value, right? That's why America gives a pass to Israel, because those are European expats who live in the Middle East, so they get extra consideration, extra protection. That's white supremacy, aka pan-Europeanism. That's what it is. White people first. White first. That's what it is. All right? So in order for us black people to combat that, Pan-Africanism is the only mechanism. Because under Pan-Africanism is black first. And if under Pan-Africanism, it makes our army the largest. Every other group army is small because they're not big enough. It's a numbers game. But Pan-Africans, our numbers are big. And we have institutions. We have a president now in Senegal, Pan-Africans. The president and the prime minister of Senegal are Pan-Africans. Okay? So Pan-Africanism is moving up as the organization which encompasses many different African people on many different spectrums of life, political, business, scholastic, sports. Pan-Africanism is in every facet of society. And under that guide, it gives us the most power on the planet. There's no group who's bigger than the Pan-African group. There's no group that has more potential power economically, socially, scholastically than the Pan-African group when it's at its peak, right? Of course, Pan-Africanism is not at its peak yet, but the potential there is dangerous. And other Pan-Europeans, they're paying attention. They're paying attention. Pan-Asians are also paying attention. Right, because they are future allies, depending, like they could be allies, they may be adversaries in the future. The future hasn't been told on that yet, but historically, Asians and Africans have been allies, even though the relationship has not always been the greatest. But for the most part, it never ended up in war, death, and destruction. It's usually just business, But I just wanted to break it down a little bit. What is white supremacy and how to recognize it on the global scale? So when you hear American government, Australian government, South African white people, anything that they do in South Africa, that white people, that's all, every move that they make is white supremacy. That they are supreme, they are the default, that they are the main character and you are not. And right now, white supremacy is being dismantled. So because white supremacy is being dismantled and there's pretty much nothing, people who promote white supremacy or think that white supremacy is the way forward, those people who want white supremacy to exist, those people are having an issue because they don't know what to do. But the history of the European, if it's any indication, they don't go down without a fight. So pan-Europeanism, white supremacy, they will not go down without a fight. They will scorch the earth on their way out. They will take the copper out the house on the way out. They will take everything of value on the way out. They will shoot you and then shoot themselves. These people, their value set is totally different. And those are things that we actually got to watch out as we rise and as white supremacy falls. We have to watch out for every trap that they lay on the way out the door. We have to be cognitive that these people are going to do things that's irrational, when it comes to human beings and life on the way out. And we have to be prepared to defend ourselves because it's the most dangerous. This is the most dangerous time for black people, Asian people, for any people who values life and want agency for their own people against the colonialism, against oppression, against the West, which the West means white. West is code for white. West, white is how they say white without saying West, right? And I told y'all before in earlier videos that global South is the term for African people. So if you hear the term global South, that's what they mean when they see black people. Global South, black people, and Southeast Asians are also included in that, but they're mainly talking about African people, okay? So I hope you understand what I said. Tell me what you think about this in the comment section. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, T-Tum. I'm out.